Prior to tonight's school board meeting, Caitlin Housewright, an 8th grader at Harry Hurst, will lead us in prayer. So before I ask her to come to the podium, I'd like to say a little bit about her. Caitlin is a member of the Harry Hurst Middle School Percussion Band. She's in Talented Arts, the Beta Club, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She's also active in her church with the youth group, and along with the Girl Scout troop. So she seems like she's pretty busy and pretty well rounded. You know? So, Caitlin, we want to thank you for being here tonight to lead us in prayer, and so you now have the podium.
Thank you.
Everyone, please stand.
God, thank you so much for these leaders and their decisions that they're making for us. Thank you for their hard working, and thank you for the wisdom that you've given them. Please help protect these leaders, the faculty and the staff. Lord God, thank you so much for them and their hard working and them wanting to help us. Thank you for our teachers helping us to learn, and please protect us all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, Caitlin, I'd like to thank you for leading us in prayer again tonight, and wish you well. We will start school this year, even though under what kind of circumstances, but I'm sure you survive and thrive in that environment. So thank you very much. I'd like to ask Mr. Quinn to lead us in the pledge. Okay.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call this board meeting to order.
Mr. President, before we get started, can I have a moment of personal privilege?
Yes, sir, Mr. O'Quinn. Mr. Robichaud.
It's with sad news that a custodian at DHS, Wanda Blue, passed away last night. She was an amazing lady. She was loved by many, and she'll be truly missed. I ask that we have a moment of silence for her and her family, please. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Okay, 103 is a roll call. I'd like to recognize all the board members that are here in attendance tonight, along with our superintendent. Item 2.01 is a resolution commending the Bessie Board for the election of the state superintendent of education. And I'd like Ms. Bernard to read that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution commending the Bessie Board for the election of the State Superintendent of Education. Whereas for the first time in almost a decade, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, known as Bessie, has elected a new State Superintendent of Education. Whereas Bessie elected Dr. Cade Brumley as the new State Superintendent on May 20th, 2020. Whereas Dr. Brumley is eminently qualified, having successfully led both the DeSoto Parish School System and Jefferson Parish School System. Whereas Bessie showed commitment to public education and to the people of Louisiana by electing Dr. Brumley. Now therefore be it resolved that the St. Charles Parish School Board expresses its sincere gratitude to Kira Orange Jones, who facilitated the process for supporting the selection of Dr. Brumley. I move approval of the resolution commending the Bessie Board for the election of our State Superintendent of Education.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard and seconded by Mr. O'Quinn that we approve this resolution. Any discussion, comments? There being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by aye. Are we going to vote electronically? Oh, we got it. Yeah, all right. Sorry about that. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Babineau. I forgot to recognize you at the beginning of the meeting, but our executive secretary is also present. Now we get to the business portion of the meeting. Item 3.01 is the minutes of the May 18th, 2020 committee meetings and May 20th, 2020 board meeting. Can I get a motion, please?
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Robichaud, seconded by Mr. Smith, that we approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2020 committee meeting and the May 20th, 2020 board meeting. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 3.02, personnel items. Just a minute, This agenda item is reviewed by the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's strategic plan.
Move approval of the personnel items as presented to the board.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Smith, that we approve personnel items as presented to the Board at the committee meeting on Monday, the 22nd. Any discussion or comments? Please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the revisions to policy 5.98, return to work for second reading and adoption. Upon review of policy 5.98, return to work, revisions were required due to the recent COVID-19 school closures. This agenda item was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, May 18, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's strategic plan.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Robichaud, seconded by Mrs. Bernard, that we approve the accepted revisions by the Board for Board Policy 5.98, return to work for a second reading and adoption. Any discussion or comments? There being none, Superintendent? Okay, there being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 3.03, revisions to Board Policy 4.10, or that's actually 3.04, harassment for a second reading and adoption. Upon review of Board Policy 4.10, harassment, revisions were required due to amendments made to Louisiana RS 42:341-345. This agenda item was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, May 18, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's strategic plan. What's the Board's pleasure?
Move approval. Second.
That's been a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Oakland, that we approve the revisions to Board Policy 4.10, harassment for a second reading and adoption. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 3.05, the job description for the Ready Start program. At the June 17, 2020 Bessie Board meeting, Ready Start grant funds were approved and awarded to St. Charles Parish Public Schools. Ready Start grant is intended to improve and expand access to affordable, high-quality early childhood learning opportunities for children birth to 4 years. The grant proposal includes hiring a Ready Start program director. The proposed position will be at no cost to the district and will be eliminated if their grant funds are not awarded. The proposed Ready Start program director's position will be based on the program director's salary, schedule with benefits. The St. Charles Parish School Board's professional evaluation plan will include and ensure the Ready Start program director's salary is paid with Ready Start grant funds. This agenda was reviewed at the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's strategic plan.
Move approval for the job description for the Ready Start Program Director.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Knocking, that we approve the job description of the Ready Start Program Director's position. Any discussion?
I would just like to thank Dr. Timothy Odinga for going through all the work and effort that it took to put forth the grant to receive the funds for this position. Thank you, Dr. Odinga.
Any other further discussion, Superintendent?
And I'd also like to thank Dr. Odinga for her work in our community to expand early childhood access to our educational opportunities. So thank you, Dr. Odinga, on behalf of St. Charles Parish Public Schools.
All right. Any more discussion? Please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the proposed title change, salary adjustment, and revised job description for administrator of Head Start and 4-year-old programs. The Director of Head Start and 4-year-old programs is responsible for the district's core business of teaching and learning at the 2 pre-K locations, only locations. This position is assigned similar responsibilities as elementary principals. A title change to administrator of Head Start and 4-year-old programs is being proposed. Additionally, a salary adjustment is being recommended to align with the elementary school principal salary of $91,057, an increase of $8,824 from the current salary. This agenda item was reviewed at the Board's Personnel and Policy Committee meeting of the Board on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal B of the Board's strategic plan. What's the Board's pleasure?
I move we accept the proposed title change, salary adjustment, and revised job description for administrator of Head Start and 4-year-old programs at an additional cost of $8,824.
It's been moved by Mrs. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Knockin, that we accept the proposed change in salary adjustment of the revised job description for the administrator of Head Start and 4-year-old programs for a total salary cost of $91,057. Any discussion? There be none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 3.07, the Board of Trustees renewed for the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Fund. Members appointed to the Board of Trustees to the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Fund serve terms of a 3-year duration, subject to approval by the St. Charles Parish School Board at this time, or the renewal appointments of Mr. Al Suffren, Mr. Emile St. Pierre for a period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. The St. Charles Parish School Board is the overseeing custodian of this trust fund, and members of the Board of Trustees must be approved by the school board in order to award scholarship in conformity with set criteria and guidelines.
I move approval of the renewal of appointments of Mr. Al Suffren and Mr. Emile St. Pierre to the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Board of Trustees, if I can get it out.
It's been moved by Mr. Robichaud, second by Mr. Smith, that we approve the renewal appointments of Mr. Al Suffren and Mr. Emil St. Pierre to the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Board of Trustees. Any discussion? Comments? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is 3.08, Board of Trustees appointment for the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Fund. Ms. Laurel Gonzalez, who resigned from the board with 1 year remaining on her 3-year term. The St. Charles Parish School Board is the overseeing custodian of this trust fund, and members of the Board of Trustees must be approved by the school board in order to award scholarship in conformity with the set criteria and guidelines.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the appointment of Ms. Rachel Alamon to the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Board of Trustees.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren and seconded by Mr. Nakane that we approve the appointment of Ms. Rachel Alamon to the Ethel Scheffner Scholarship Board of Trustees. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion passes unanimously. 3.09 is the official journal for fiscal year 2020-2021. Louisiana Revised Statute 43:141 requires that each school board select an official journal for a term not to exceed 1 year. The newspaper shall have published in an office physically located in St. Charles Parish for a period of 5 years preceding the selection. Shall not have missed during the period as many as 3 consecutive issues unless caused by fire, flood, strike, or natural disaster. Shall have maintained the general page circulation in St. Charles Parish for 5 consecutive years prior to the selection, and shall have entered in the U.S. Post Office in St. Charles Parish under a second-class mailing permit in that parish for a period of 5 years, consecutive years prior to the selection. At this time, the only St. Charles Parish held qualifies as the school board's official journal. This agenda item was reviewed at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of the board on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal E of the board's strategic plan.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the St. Charles Herald Guide as the school board's official journal for the 2020-2021 school year at an approximate cost of $15,000 per year.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Robichaud, that we accept the St. Charles Herald Guide as the school board's official journal for 2020 school year at an approximate cost of $15,000 per year. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. The preliminary, next item on the agenda is 3.10, the interim 2021 budget. The preliminary budget packet was sent to the board on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. A public hearing was held on Wednesday, tonight, June 24th, 2020 at 5:45 p.m. in compliance with statutory provisions. This agenda item was reviewed at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of the board on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal C of the board's strategic plan. The proposed budget for 2021 represents a budget that allocates approximately 79% of general fund expenditures in the area of instruction.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the interim FY21 budget.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Robichaud, that we approve the interim 2021 budget. Do we have any discussion from board members? Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to show a video that was prepared by our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Donna Pope. It summarizes the fiscal year 2021 interim budget.
It is my pleasure to present an overview of the fiscal year 2020-2021 interim budget for the St. Charles Parish Public School Board. We'll begin our overview by looking at the main operating fund, referred to as the general fund. This graph depicts the general fund revenue over the past 10 years. You will notice that there is a steady increase in revenues since the year 2016. However, the current year budget anticipates a reduction in the general fund revenue as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the accompanying economic slowdown. The reduction in revenue is projected to be about $6.2 million. This estimate will likely be adjusted when the revised budget is presented in the spring of 2021. At that time, we'll have a better understanding of the impact of COVID-19. Breaking down general fund revenue into major sources of revenue reveals that the increase has been primarily due from the ad valorem tax collections. Ad valorem taxes are represented by the red column on this graph. The increases are a result of increased property values in St. Charles Parish, as well as new property and equipment added to the tax rolls. Funding from the state through the Minimum Foundation Program is shown here by the gold bar and illustrates that this funding has been relatively static for many years. The blue column represents sales and use tax collections and tend to be the most volatile of the major sources of revenue. Moving on to the expenditure side of the budget, you will notice that total expenditures are increasing. This is primarily in instructional categories and account for the new initiatives in special education, mental health support, and the pre-K4 program expansion, which were approved by the board in the fall of 2019. The additional increases in expenditures include a 2% increase in part-time workers' pay, a 6.9% increase in health insurance cost, new science textbook adoption, and the technology obsolescence plan. The Louisiana Department of Education's recommendation is that 70% of all expenses be comprised of instructional expenses. For the budgeted year, instructional expenses as a percentage of total expenses is 79.83%. This is an increase over prior years and is a result of the new initiatives previously mentioned. The result of the budget anticipates that expenses will exceed revenue by nearly $4.3 million. This would bring the ending fund balance to about $19 million, which calculates to be 12.49% of general fund revenue. The LDOE recommends maintaining a fund balance of 10% of general fund revenue, so this budget exceeds that benchmark. That concludes our review of the general fund. Now let's take a look at the special revenue funds. Total special revenue funding is budgeted to be $9.7 million. There's an expected increase in grant funding, including a $1.4 million award from the CARES Act. $7 million of debt will be retired during the upcoming fiscal year. Total expenditures for debt service will be $10 million, which includes interest and fees. Revenue collections specifically for debt service will be about $9 million. Therefore, the general fund will supplement the debt service funds with a transfer in of $1 million. Our capital projects are funded through ad valorem tax and bond proceeds. Total expenditures in the capital project funds is expected to be $18.6 million. These expenditures will be covered by $7.8 million in ad valorem tax, $8.7 million in sales tax bond proceeds, and a $2.5 million transfer in from general fund. Finally, taking a look at the lunch fund, the budget projects a $1.4 million operating loss because of the impact of COVID-19. This loss will be covered by the beginning fund balance and a $772,000 transfer in from general fund. That concludes the overview of the fiscal year 21 interim budget.
The board have any questions? from Ms. Post to the superintendent? If not, please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. Item number 3.11 is accounts payable for the month of May. Invoices and other financial obligations of the school district are customarily paid weekly. Request for approval of these transactions is normally made to the board's monthly meeting. The board must approve expenditures of public funds under its jurisdiction. This item was reviewed at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of the board on June 22nd, 2020, and is aligned with Goal C of the board's strategic plan.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the accounts payable for the month of May 2020 in the total amount of $2,141,693.
It's been moved by Mr. Suffren, seconded by Mr. Nakane, that we approve the accounts payable for the month of May 2020 as presented to the board for a total of $2,141,693. Any discussion or comments by the board? There being none, please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously. And for now, for our closing items, 4.01 outstanding committee reports. Any committee chair would like to make a report at this time, please can do so. And if we need a mic, we'll probably have to pass the mic to her.
Mr. President, the Finance and Audit Committee met on Monday, June 22nd. We covered 3 items. All 3 of those items came to the full board during this meeting and were approved. Those 3 items were the official journal for fiscal year 2020-2021, interim FY21 budget, and the accounts payable for the month of May 2020. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Suffren.
Mr. President, the Personnel Committee met and approved the items that were presented to the board tonight for approval. We thank the board for approving those items, and we'd like to also commend the Personnel Department for the job that they are doing at this time of uncertainty. It's a tremendous responsibility that they have, and it's a tremendous job that has to be done to make sure that we are recruiting the best and the brightest among all of the competition that we have throughout the state of Louisiana, throughout the country for that matter. So in addition to that, we had 2 items which were items related to policy changes that came before the board. And thank you for approving those items.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other board members? There being none, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. As most citizens are aware, hurricane season began on June 1st and extends through November. The State Parish Emergency Operations Centers have distributed information about hurricane preparedness and response. Over the years, St. Charles Parish Public Schools has worked closely with our Parish Emergency Operations Center to make sure that this school system has a comprehensive plan for preparing and responding to hurricane events. We are pleased to announce that St. Charles Parish Public Schools' annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 2019 qualified for GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This certificate is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. Congratulations to CFO, Ms. Donna Post, members of her department, and the board for this recognition. While students are enjoying their summer break, teachers and administrators are busy preparing for the new school year. Hundreds of teachers are attending virtual professional development sessions on topics such as ELA, science, and social studies. When you see teachers and administrators this summer, please thank them for their focus on continuous improvement of teaching and learning.
Free and reduced meal applications for the 2020-2021 school year will be available online for parents to complete beginning in the month of July. A Blackboard Connect Ed message will be made to households advising when the application process is open. This will allow the Child Nutrition Department to process meal applications in July and provide meal benefits beginning the first day of school. We encourage you to submit the application online. The online application is quick and easy. Paper applications will not be mailed home this summer. If you need a paper application, one can be requested from the cafeteria manager at your child's school or from the Child Nutrition Department at the number on the screen. Additional information regarding meal benefits can be found on the district website on the Child Nutrition Department page. The annual youth rally for St. Charles Parish students and parents will take place on Saturday, August 1st, 2020 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon in the Dr. Rodney R. LaFawn Performing Arts Center parking lot. This rally is sponsored by the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office, Alpha Daughters of Zion, Blessed to be a Blessing, United Way of St. Charles, and St. Charles Parish Public Schools. This year's event will be a drive-through school supply giveaway to the first 700 St. Charles Parish residents. Social distancing mandates will be in effect. This is a great kickoff to the school year. Hope to see you there. Our St. Charles Parish Public Schools Strong Start Committee of school system leaders, along with key stakeholders, are continuing to develop plans to safely and efficiently reopen schools in August. As part of this process, we conducted a family survey and received over 5,000 responses. We will use this feedback, consultation advice from public health officials, and direction from the Louisiana Department of Education to finalize our plans. The physical return plans being developed are intended to minimize the risk of COVID-19 exposure for students and employees, and will be in alignment with Louisiana Department of Education and Louisiana Department of Health guidance. Essentially, the more safety measures in place, such as social distancing, temperature checks, minimizing transitions, limiting gatherings, etc., the more we decrease the chance of spreading this virus. Aside from the physical return, plans are also being made for flexible and differentiated learning, social-emotional supports, employee professional development, child nutrition, transportation, cleaning and disinfecting, athletics, arts, school operations, human resources, and most importantly, student support. While there are plenty of unanswered difficult questions, we are determined to make plans that will position us for a strong and successful start to the 2020-2021 school year. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Superintendent Bartley. Got a motion from Mr. Robichaud, seconded by Mr. Nakane, that we adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Our school board meeting is over. Thank you.